Research in Motion shares closed up 5% in Toronto today, largely due to the market and the Twitterverse reacting to renewed speculation that Samsung may vie for a takeover of the BlackBerry maker. That surge in speculation largely due to an article written by our next guest. On the line from Greenwich, Connecticut, we turn to the president and editor-in-chief of BoyGeniusReport.com, Jonathan Geller. Jonathan, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Your source had told you that there were multiple players who were basically kicking the tires over in Waterloo, Ontario, but why does Samsung seem to be the one up front?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been widely reported, Amazon also was in talks. Samsung is just the latest that I've been hearing, and also one that I've heard RIM is actually trying to push hard for. I think there's definitely synergies there, and I do think in some capacity it makes sense.
What synergies do you see? Because we know that Samsung has already hitched its cart to the Google Android horse. This would be a whole different world, wouldn't it?
Possibly. I think there's a couple interesting strategies with Android specifically. I wouldn't tie Android directly to Google in all senses, so it is entirely possible that down the road Samsung would want to take more ownership of their software on their phones and possibly fork it. So do something more like what Amazon's doing with their Kindle and probable smartphones. So then you have interesting things like really great enterprise, reliable, secure email on Android as a something to differentiate themselves. You also have BBM, BlackBerry Messenger, super popular, and I also think it gives them a lot of the high-end market with Android. Then if they do have some sort of research in motion synergy.
So what you're hearing and what your source is telling you is that this is largely, as far as Samsung is concerned, coming down to price. And as we look at Research in Motion, closing in Toronto and New York at about $17, that's not the price Jim Balsley, according to you, is willing to unload his company for.
Yeah, I mean, I think, whatever the market cap is now, 8.9 or whatever that is, I think they'd have to sell the company, at least from what I've heard, a lot beyond that. And I just think it's a high price regardless for what people, I guess, think RIM's worth, again, from what I've heard. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's up there. I think licensing is also an interesting strategy. And it's possible they could do something like, split it up between consumer and enterprise as well. So it's definitely an interesting time for RIM.
It seems that licensing the BlackBerry Messenger service and the enterprise technology is the more popular option as far as Wall Street analysts are concerned, in part because of the Investment Canada Act that would prevent or give Ottawa the opportunity to kibosh any deal where a foreign company buys up a Canadian firm at a price greater than 300-some-odd million. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I haven't heard too much about that, but it's definitely an interesting point, and I do think it goes back to what I previously said about possibly splitting this up, whether it's a consumer, purchase in terms of what Samsung would be buying or licensing. But yeah, because of that figure, that does obviously complicate things.
As a guy who's got it right in the past as often as you have, Jonathan, give us some insight here. 12 months out, what do you see happening with RIM?
I don't even think RIM knows. I think that's the really interesting thing. I think they're really going at it, and I think they have some really great people there, and I think they'll do something interesting. There's just a lot in play, like we've talked about, whether it's licensing, whether it's a sale, whether it's them just simply going the course and releasing their new products and software. I just don't think they know at this point.
Well, we appreciate your time, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Jonathan Geller, founder of BoyGeniusReport.com, joining us on the line from Greenwich, Connecticut.